Radio Play Comics is meant to adapt the stories mostly of great unadapted old and forgotten comics from the past. I use voice acting and narration to abridge the work as much as possible without lessening its impact, and to bring these stories to life the best way I can. Please enjoy. Hi, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Fusion Space for today's episode of Radio Play Comics, Mike Grell's Green Arrow 3, Blood of the Dragon. The title comes from the second of three stories in this episode, the four-part return of Shado. But we'll begin with the trial of Oliver Queen, in which Oliver accidentally shoots an arrow into a kid playing paintball in the streets, believing he's stopping a criminal from killing a cop. A judge reads Ollie the riot act, and he falls into drinking and depression, losing all faith in himself, and only a visit from his best friend Hal Jordan might be able to snap him out of it. But don't expect to see any green rings or arrows beyond that first one here, as this is a purely human story, and harkens back to the good old days when they traveled the country together, searching for the real America. The main story, Blood of the Dragon, concerns Shado having a baby, which is kidnapped by the Yakuza in order to force her to perform a high-level assassination for them. Oliver goes to help her, and together they will have 4 days to scour the world and find the child, fighting through waves of enemies, or else Shado will have to perform the hit, and the child will suffer a grim fate as well. The Yakuza still want Shado to pay for killing their leader in her last story, and the debt of honor can be paid with the child's life just as well as her own. And in the final story, Witch Hunt, Oliver travels to merry old England and the site of the real Sherwood Forest in Nottingham to help find a local woman said to be practicing witchcraft, and accused of killing her own grandfather, and whom the townspeople are hunting in order to serve mob justice. Green Arrow will get in touch with his deepest roots there and encounter old magic in those woods, about which he is warned in a cameo appearance by none other than John Constantine. So as you can see, this episode is a star-studded and action-packed affair, so we'll get right into it. Now, let's begin. Two policemen are having coffee in a diner. I'm not saying that, it's just, 6 months. Why not take a desk?
See that out there? That's the streets. That's where I've been most of my life. It's where I belong.
Man, 30 years.
It's easy. You stay alive on the streets this long by taking the initiative away from the scumbags. Control the situation. For instance, you're questioning a couple of punks, and one of them pulls a knife. What do?
I go to the baton.
Wrong. You pull your gun. You try the stick, and the guy takes it as a challenge. Number one, he thinks he can beat the stick. And he can, if he's willing to take a broken arm. And number two, he's gotta try to keep face in front of his buddy. But if you pull the gun, the fight's over. Period. No broken heads, no bruised egos. Who's gonna criticize a guy who backs down from a gun, right? The situation is controlled by you.
What happens if you can't control it?
I don't know, kid. It never got that bad.
As the police leave the diner, a call comes over the radio. Shh! Cedar woman. Report of armed individuals sighted near 42nd and University Avenue.
It's showtime, kid.
They get in their car and hit the lights and siren. Probably those damn skinheads again.
Don't anticipate. You go in there expecting to find neo-Nazis with switchblades, and you can get your ass blown off by an old lady with a shotgun. Wait and see. Observe. Then act.
They exit the car at the scene.
You stay here and wait for backup. I'm gonna have to look down the alley.
Watch out for old ladies. The trial of Oliver Queen. The older cop walks down the alley with his flashlight out while Green Arrow prowls the rooftops above him. A figure pops out of the shadows holding a gun. Oliver aims an arrow at the figure. The policeman draws his gun.
Freeze!
The figure fires his gun at the cop. The policeman drops his flashlight as red splatters cover his chest where the gun impacts and his own shot goes wild. A green arrow pierces the gunman's chest and he falls. Shots fired! I'm going in! The policeman's partner calls it in on the radio and enters the alley. Green Arrow jumps down to the street.
You okay? Yeah.
The cop checks the red splattered on him.
Jesus. It's paint.
A young boy comes out from the shadows. Jamie? The partner draws on him. Police! Freeze!
Stankowski, no!
It's just a paint pellet gun. He takes the boy's pellet gun. Christ! I could have killed you! Blood flows from the other boy's arrow wound.
You better call an ambulance or we're gonna lose this one.
Later on, Oliver and Dinah leave the city courthouse.
You want to go home?
Not just yet. I think I'd just like to walk for a while, Dinah. Alone.
Okay, I'll fix a nice dinner when you come home. I love you, Oliver.
Ollie walks on, alone. As he walks through the Seattle rain, he remembers the proceedings in court. The boy explains that he and his friend were playing a dangerous game of paintball in the streets. Oliver opens a bottle of liquor and begins to drink as the memories continue. The policeman testifies how he thought he was dead when the shots rang out and he saw the red liquid. Oliver remembers his own turn on the stand. I saw Officer Egan draw his gun and order an armed man to freeze. The gunman turned and fired at Officer Egan, who turned and fired, but missed. Then, I shot him. The boy. The gunman, yes. Oliver pitches the empty bottle off a bridge. As for you, Mr. Queen, in view of Officer Egan's testimony that he believed himself to be shot, the law is clear. A citizen is entitled to use deadly force to protect his life and the life of another person. This is an inquest, not a trial. Unfortunately, if I were to judge that there was sufficient cause to have you bound over for trial, I would also have to charge Officer Egan, and the evidence in this case justifies use of deadly force. Therefore, I must reluctantly dismiss this case. The judge looms larger than life in Oliver's mind. However, this is not to be construed as approval of vigilante actions on the part of private citizens. The system of legal procedures in this country was set up to put an end to frontier justice. We've come nearly 100 years since men strapped on guns and settled their differences in the streets. And by God, sir, I will not have someone like you drag us back to those days. Crime in the streets is a serious problem to be handled in an ordered manner by trained officers of the law. Not some self-proclaimed vigilante shooting down innocent people in the streets. You're a dangerous breed, and if I had it in my power, I would eradicate your kind. I can only hope you'll do it to each other, and save the court the trouble and the expense.
But what if that gun had been real, Your Honor?
It wasn't.
Officer Egan thought so.
Officer Egan missed. You didn't.
His judgment falls on Oliver like a hammer.
Get out of my sight.
Back at home, Dinah makes a phone call.
If you could see what's happening to him, Hal. It's like the heart's gone out of him. He's shut me out. He won't talk about it at all. And he's drinking again.
Jesus. Okay, look, I've got some things happening here, Dinah. I'll be there as soon as I can get free.
And, Hal, it might be a good idea if you didn't tell him I called you.
Ollie comes across several men stripping a car for parts on the street. May I be of assistance to you, gentlemen? Perhaps I could hold your coat so you don't get them soiled whilst pursuing your evening's endeavor. Who the hell's that?
Just some drunk man.
They pay him no mind and continue their work. Just some drunk. I'll have you know I'm doing my duty as a responsible citizen. See, every instinct tells me that I should kick your asses and teach you a lesson before you graduate to the big time. But no, that wouldn't be responsible. Be a good boy, Ollie. Sit, stay, bend over. Zap! You're dead. Join the club. As Ollie leaves, the car is completely stripped. Ollie stumbles home in a drunken stupor. He begins to fix yet another drink.
What the hell are you looking at?
Ollie hurls the bottle in anger, and it shatters against his Robin Hood portrait. He collapses, and Dinah holds him as he sobs. Rescued by Robin Hood from a kid with a paint pellet gun. What I can't figure, Egan, is how a guy who shoots like Dirty Harry on the range can miss a perp twice at 30 feet.
Just as well I did, Hanson, or that kid might be dead now. I can live with it.
I'm sure you can. Trouble is, can you? The partners leave the police station and head for their patrol car.
I know it's on your mind. What happens next time? Do I go off half-cocked and maybe waste a bystander? Or do I freeze and maybe get us both killed? Truth is, I don't know. And neither will you until the time comes. You want a new partner?
I want to catch some bad guys. I'll drive.
I'll drive. You drive like I shoot.
The Trial of Oliver Queen, Part 2.
Report of armed individuals, 42nd and University.
Police, freeze! In Oliver's nightmare, the blood erupts from the cop's chest.
Ah!
Shots fired. I'm going in.
It's paint. Stankowski, no! It's just a kid! You better call an ambulance, or we're gonna lose this one.
You are a dangerous breed, and if I had it in my power,
I'd eradicate your kind.
The nightmare continues as the judge's gavel falls on Green Arrow.
Get out of my sight.
Yeah! He morphs into a small beaver as Oliver awakens in the woods.
Ugh.
Good morning. I was beginning to think you were going to leave all the trout for me.
Hal? Where the hell?
Mount Rainier.
What are we?
Fishing. It's all you talked about.
I seem to remember you talking a great deal. After that, it's a little fuzzy.
I'm not surprised. This place is great. It's everything you said.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't listen to me. Hal begins gutting a fish. God, do you have to do that?
Can't very well leave them in, can I? Unless you know a secret recipe. After searching it, Ollie kicks the duffel bag.
Don't you have anything to drink?
He pours Ollie a cup of coffee.
Gee, thanks a hell of a lot.
Want something stronger? Why not run down to the local liquor shop? Should only take you about 3 days.
You didn't bring a truck? How?
One brought us. It'll be back on Saturday, if the guy doesn't forget.
Saturday? That's 5 days.
3. You've been gone longer than you think. I don't believe in Santa Claus, and I don't believe in coincidence. You didn't just drop in out of the blue. As a matter of fact, I did, testing a new plane for Boeing. Had a few days to spare and thought I'd drag you off to terrorize a few trout. Yeah, right. And I suppose Dinah didn't call you. So what? It's a crime to care about you?
I can take care of myself.
Ollie throws his coffee down. Well, you're not doing such a hot job of it. Have you looked in the mirror lately? No, don't answer that. I can guess.
Ugh. Why won't you just go away and leave me alone?
You'd like that, wouldn't you? Then you can be alone and wallow in self-pity and be as worthless as you think you are.
I shot a kid!
The way I heard it, if that gun had been real, a cop would be dead right now.
But if I hadn't been out there looking for trouble, if I hadn't...
How dare you? After the self-righteous crap you laid on me over the years? What right do you have? What makes you so goddamn special? Remember me? I'm your friend. I'm the guy who stood by you, fought beside you, and shared your joy, your pain, your fear, and your hurt. I know you. I know what you are and what you aren't. And you aren't God. You're a man, just like the rest of us. Men aren't infallible. They make mistakes, and they learn from those mistakes. They get back on their feet and go on, and they try very hard not to make the same mistake again. They don't run away from who they are and what they are, because if they do, they'll never stop. Sooner or later, you have to turn and face it. You made a mistake. Welcome to the human race, pal. It's your choice. If you let it, it will destroy you. But if you do let it, remember, you had a choice. You just picked the easiest way. Hal tends to the fish on the grill. You didn't fall into that bottle. You crawled in and pulled the cork in after you. The spatula goes flying as Oliver slugs Hal in the jaw. He kicks Hal in the stomach. Hal rises and punches Ollie in the face. Ollie returns the punch and tackles Hal to the ground, knocking over the grill. Hal kicks Ollie off of him. When he gets up, Hal socks him in the jaw. And Ollie knees Hal in the crotch. He throws Hal onto a rock and slugs him in the gut. Ollie grabs Hal's collar. Damn you! Just what the hell do you want from me?
I want my friend back, Oliver.
Oliver takes Hal's hand, helps him to his feet, and they embrace. Back in the city, the cops respond to another call. We got a rabbit.
I'll go around and cut him off.
Officer Egan's partner gets out and chases the perp through the alleys. Officer Egan stops the running crook with his car. Whoop whoop.
That's it, Rabbit. You know you can make a fortune in running shoe endorse.
The punk pulls a gun and both cops freeze.
Huh?
He fires and Egan is shot in the chest. His partner shoots the kid. And Officer Egan passes out in a haze of red. Lieutenant Cameron greets Green Arrow at the hospital. I don't know why he wanted to see you. Just make it brief, okay? How do you feel?
Stupid question. Guess I'll be taking early retirement after all. What about you?
Huh?
Gonna quit?
Huh. You ask hard questions. I thought about it. Perhaps if the courts are more concerned with justice than law, there would be no need for men like me. Look around and see a young woman murdered by a man on work release from prison, or a 3-time rapist let out after only a year in jail, and I have to ask myself, where's the justice? I don't envy you your job. You have to deal with the law, and the law is very clear. But when you're forced to watch some psychopath turn loose on the streets because of a technicality, don't you ever ask yourself, where's the justice? I'll admit, I started doing this for fun. But that was a long time ago when things were a lot simpler. Now we've got kids on the street who kill for pocket change. When some scumbag beats an 80-year-old woman for her social security check, and the court can't touch him because he's a juvenile who's back on the streets in 60 days, a lot of people want to know, where's the justice? For people like that, the answer is people like me. Beep, beep, beep. Sadly, Officer Egan flatlines as Green Arrow resumes the fight for justice in an unjust world. Oliver begins pouring out the alcohol he's stored down the sink. Whoop, 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 whoop. Where's Hal?
He had to leave.
I didn't get to thank him.
You didn't need to. I did.
Or apologize.
Well, he said you punch like an old lady. Welcome home, Oliver.
Ollie and Dinah kiss. Note that here the monthly penciler switches from Ed Hannigan to Dan Jurgens, whose work you might have seen on Superman books from the 90s. Men in suits gather in a smoky back room in Washington, D.C. Have you thought about it? I wish you'd leave me out of this. In my position, no one told you to get famous after Dallas. If anything goes wrong, we're all going to get famous. One way or other, he's got to be stopped. Blood of the Dragon, Part 1. Uchiyo Koshi. Shado sits at her seaside home, peacefully tending to her infant child. She lays her baby down in his crib, picks up her bow and quiver, and heads outside to practice target shooting.
Uchiyo Koshi, raise the bow.
A group of men ascend the stairs to her house.
Hikiwaki, the draw.
They scale the rock ridge around her garden.
Kai, the union. The moment of perfect tension.
One of the men shoots her housekeeper, and Shado is alerted.
Huh?
Shado races up the path to her house. She is ambushed by 4 men in masks, and instantly shoots 2 of them in the chest. She ducks a pair of nunchucks from behind and turns to confront a man with a club. And the nunchucks hit her in the back of the head. The club brings her down to the ground, and the men pin her. They are startled by the blood on the club and stop.
Huh?
Shado takes the opportunity to spring up and stab one with an arrow. She lashes out with the nunchucks and takes down another of the men. Shado flies through the paper wall of her house and finds the housekeeper dead. As she jump kicks one of the men by the crib. The other holds a sword up to her baby, and Shado freezes. The men knock her unconscious. Shado awakens in a dungeon, chained to the floor.
She speak any English? Better than you, I think. My apologies for the rough treatment. My associates were instructed to bring you here alive, but apparently no one mentioned anything about whole. But then, who can blame them? They do carry a grudge, these Yakuza. And after all, you did kill their leader.
Shado leaps to attack the men surrounding her, but she is quickly put back down.
Jesus, she's like a wild animal. Will she do it?
One of the men holds a knife to her baby, and she calms down.
Ah!
A man punches Shado.
Of course she will.
She is kicked unconscious again. Dinah presents Oliver with a birthday cake covered with candles. Why is it that I'm the only person who has birthdays?
You're not. You're just the only one who makes such a fuss about turning 1 year older.
Oh yeah? What about Hal? He hasn't had one since I've known him. I swear, he must have a portrait in his attic that's not doing so hot.
Honestly, do you really resent aging that much?
Well, after 45 years, the thrill sort of wears off.
I happen to think men get sexier as they get older.
Name one. Dinah sits in his lap.
Cary Grant.
Doesn't count. He wrecks the curve.
Sean Connery.
This is not helping.
Paul Newman.
Oh, thanks a hell of a lot.
Tom Cruise.
Ah!
Oliver carries her upstairs to their bedroom.
Happy birthday, Oliver. I love you.
Oliver tosses Dinah onto the bed. Thanks for making it worthwhile. He soon joins her, and they kiss. They make love by their roaring fireplace. Back in Washington, the men in suits confer in their shadows. We use a primary assassin, plus a backup.
What sort of backup?
Poison gas tube. In case of a miss, it'll look like a heart attack. I'll be close enough. I'll do it myself. Plus, we need a third man to kill the primary. Right. It should be someone associated with the primary who can be maneuvered into it without his knowledge. Then, if you put him on trial for conspiracy, he'll have nothing to say. That's being arranged. Oliver answers the knock at the door of Sherwood Florist, the shop on the first floor of their home. What is it? A Japanese man hands him a note. She say, "You come now, please." I have to go to Japan.
The last time she nearly got you killed.
I love you, Dinah, and nothing this side of hell could keep me from coming back. You're the most important thing in my life.
Yeah, right.
Oliver gets a duffel bag to begin packing. He is soon on a flight to Japan. After Oliver lands, he takes a taxi from the airport to Shado's home. A man on the street directs him to a house high on a hill. He passes Shado's housekeeper as he enters.
I am here. I knew you would come. I dreaded it, but I knew.
Oliver falls to his knees at Shado's side. My God, who did this to you?
Yakuza and another man, an American. They have taken my child.
Your child? I didn't know. That is, well, I guess there's not much I do know about you. Isn't there anyone else here with you? The baby's father?
He knows nothing of the child, and he is otherwise encumbered, as they say.
Why?
I have been sitting here for 2 days, healing myself and pondering that same question. I only know it is so.
They must want something.
Oh, yes. They want me to kill a man, and afterward I must take my own life as well. If I do not, the child will die. If I do, he will be raised by the Yakuza, as I was, and trained to be their slave, as I was. By the way, I will never see him again either.
Who's the target?
I will not tell you. I have 4 more days.
Shado changes into her working clothes.
If I cannot find my son, I will have to kill this man. You will try to stop me.
She fires an arrow through a set of mounted armor.
And I will have to kill you also.
You're in no condition to do this alone.
I must.
I can help you find him.
I do not wish to die with your life on my conscience as well.
Then why the hell did you send for me?
I did not.
Wait a minute. If you didn't send for me, who did?
Someone who wanted you here. Now perhaps you realize the danger that awaits you here. Go home to your woman. Leave me to my fate.
And miss all the fun? Oliver unpacks his bow. The conspirators meet at the Yakuza's corporate headquarters. All the pieces are in place. In 4 days, we set them in motion. This had better work, or a lot of people are going to be very disappointed. Certain of our associates are known to take a rather deadly attitude toward failure. Don't give me that crap. They'd have killed me years ago, if they could. But you see, they couldn't take the chance. That possibly fatal chance that I didn't destroy all the evidence, and they could be implicated on a crime over a quarter of a century old. No statute of limitations on that one, you know. Yes, I'll do it, but not for their reasons. For my own. Blood of the Dragon, Part 2. Hikiwaki. Green Arrow and Shado prepare to unleash the dragon that is death. Whoever the father is, he deserves to know what's happened.
For what purpose?
So he can at least do something to help his son.
He knows nothing of the child. If he did, what then? Must he place himself in peril as well? And if the child died anyway, would it not hurt him more? Is it not perhaps a kinder thing?
Oliver undresses and begins changing into his Green Arrow costume. Look, all I know is how I'd feel. I'd give anything for a son of my own. Hell, that's been the biggest obstacle between Dinah and me for years. I'm not kidding myself. I know the reality of the situation. The reality is that people like me don't have children. We are children, dressed up and playing cowboys and Indians with real bullets and real arrows. But there's a part of me that really wants to believe I'd give it all up, just to be a father.
Even if it meant the end of the life you'd known.
Yeah, well, I can dream, can't I?
I believe you would do it.
I suppose it's nothing more than every man's quest for immortality. A desire to leave some trace of himself behind, so as not to be forgotten.
I think that is something you need not fear.
He finishes suiting up. Nor you. We are going to find your son.
I'll warn you now. We have 4 days. If we do not find him by then, I will do as the Yakuza demands. And if you try to stop me, I will kill you.
Sure you wouldn't want to just wing me a little?
I would do that now, if I thought it would be enough.
Yeah, I figured. Based on her memories of the sounds of birds and bells and other sensations from her time in the dungeon, Shado identifies the Yakuza base where she was taken, high in the snowy mountains. Green Arrow and Shado ascend the mountain until they are within sight of the monastery where they hope to find her kidnapped son. What do you think?
It feels like the place.
I hope you're right. It cost us a day just getting here, and we won't be able to get in there before nightfall. Now listen to me. We're going to need one of them alive, just in case the baby's not there.
Very well. 1.
They put on their masks and begin the climb. Green Arrow and Shado scale the rock face freehand until they are just below 2 guards by the outer walls. Oliver holds Shado's sash so she can get a shot on the guards, leaning away from the rock. She throws a pebble to lure him, and once he is near, shoots an arrow into the guard's head. Huh? Oliver waves goodbye as he falls off of the mountain. Shado shoots another guard. His gun goes off, alerting the others. Shado and Green Arrow climb onto the ledge outside the base as more guards arrive. Oh shit! Ollie and Shado put arrows in them all. Shado picks up one of the dropped machine guns. They dodge gunfire from a guard tower as they cross a courtyard and enter the building. Shado guns down 2 more guards. And Oliver pins a man's hand to the wall, making him drop his sword. Shado is ambushed by 4 ninjas, and she sprays 2 of them with bullets. She looks at the weapon, shocked at its brutal killing power. She engages with her martial arts, dropping the gun and kicking a swordsman.
Yeah.
She catches his dropped sword and runs it through the other ninja. She dodges a swarm of shurikens and kunai. More ninjas come from all sides and she fights them off, picking up and using nunchucks with her other hand as bodies begin to pile on the floor around her. Green Arrow follows behind her, picking off the strays she missed with arrows. Finding her is easy. He simply follows the trail of bleeding corpses. He finds Shado about to stab a man in a suit and calls to her.
No! We need him!
She halts her killing frenzy just in time.
Yes, you're right.
The man grabs her knife and plunges it into his own chest.
You lose.
Damn it! We needed him to tell us where the baby is! Now what the hell are we supposed to do? Ollie grabs her wrist. Answer me, goddammit! She yanks it away.
Whatever we must. If you've no stomach for it, go back now.
Shado walks away, and Oliver follows her. Oliver and Shado leave the monastery, heading back down the mountain. She amazes me. More now than when we first met. Her skill, her grace, her savagery. I've seen the horror of which she is capable, and I wonder, is there something of her in me? Maybe that's the thing that binds us. We should be enemies, but we're not. We could be lovers, but we're not. Blood of the Dragon, Part 3. Kia. Green Arrow and Shado rest by a small pond while she washes off the blood covering her. Well, what do we do now?
It was my mistake, thinking they would hold my child at the same place they had me imprisoned.
I don't know. The place wasn't exactly a cracker box. What the hell kind of place could be more secure?
Perhaps no more secure, but a place no enemy would dare enter. A place no one would violate.
And in Japan, at Yakuza headquarters. Jesus, I think we may have made a mistake on this one. Relax, everything is under control.
Yeah, right. Our assassin and her pal waltz into an impregnable fortress and slaughter some of the toughest, best trained killers in the world. And I'm supposed to relax?
But look at it this way. It proves I made the right choice. We'll see.
The geisha house is the outer ring of the compound, then the gardens and gambling rooms. At the center is the corporate headquarters that provides cover for Yakuza activities, all legitimate. Fishing fleets, shipping, electronics, micro-miniaturization, even missile guidance systems.
You mean the Yakuza's involved in defense industry contracts?
The Yakuza is an ancient order. It is involved in everything. Not all of it is illegal, but they draw no lines of legality. This is the heart of the Yakuza. Its pulse is felt throughout the world.
Well, we're about to drive a stake through it. Oliver and Shado load their costumes and equipment into a rented car.
You should know that they probably won't be trying to kill me. They want me to live to do their assassination. It will give me an edge against the odds. But you...
Yeah, right. I doubt I'll get the same courtesy. Swell.
You can go back now. There is no shame.
Whoever brought me here did it for a purpose. Until I find out who and why, I'm in.
This will be our last chance. If we do not find the child, I must carry out their commands. Death for an innocent man. Sepulchre for myself. A life of slavery for my son.
I said I would help you find your child, and that hasn't changed. I'll fight for your son as I would fight for my own.
If we fail tonight, you must not stand in my way. I will do what I must to save my child.
Even kill me?
I will do what I must.
Shado enters the geisha section in street clothes and is assumed to be a girl arriving at work. She slips into a back room and pulls one of the geishas in with her. Then knocks her out and steals her clothes, emerging once she is in disguise. Affecting a demure posture, she makes her way back outside and opens the outer wall gate for Oliver. Once he is inside, they both change into their fighting clothes. Green Arrow and Shado sneak up behind a pair of guards. Ollie quietly grabs one by the head and slams it into a post. As Shado chokes out another with her bow. A third guard finds them, though, and as Oliver leaps at him, he fires his silent submachine gun. Green Arrow tackles the guard through a paper wall and into a den of Yakuza thugs drinking and gambling.
Huh?
As they land on a low table, one of the men brings a sword down towards Oliver's neck. Oh, shit! Ollie yanks the guard over him and intercepts the blow with his body. He leans up and avoids the point of another sword as it stabs into the table. Oliver picks up the guard's Uzi as the men all brandish their swords. He fires into the crowd of attackers, and they fall. Whispering death, like Full Metal Jacket champagne corks. You could be 50 yards away and never know what was happening, except for the stench and the screams. A lone gunman nears the gambling den as Ollie surveys the carnage. Also disgusted with the easy means of killing, he hurls the gun away just as the man rounds the corner. An arrow passes by his head, planting in the man's neck, as he is saved by Shado from outside. Shado picks up the Uzi and hands it to him.
You may need it.
She's already carrying one herself on a strap. Oliver drops it, readying his bow instead. Let's go. They make their way deeper into the building, avoiding some guards while quietly taking out others. Shado with her bow and her submachine gun. Oliver with his bow in his hands. Until they reach the penthouse level. A guard pulls a grenade as Oliver tosses him over a railing. And he is caught in the explosion below them. The men inside the penthouse are alerted by the sound and jump to their feet. Well, I think we can rule out a surprise attack. They open fire on the intruders as Shado tosses a flashbang inside. But the man with her baby is already running outside. The flashbang goes off and the guards are dazzled by the bright flash of light. Shado mows them down with her Uzi while Green Arrow picks them off with his bow. The man outside heads for a waiting helicopter. Shado rushes outside and guns the man down, but too late as he has handed the baby to someone in the chopper. It takes off from the rooftop before she can reach it. Where now?
There is nowhere else to search. There is no time.
There's got to be. Let's start with the man you're supposed to kill tomorrow. Who wants him dead and why? This can't be an ordinary hit for hire. It's just not cost effective for them anymore. I think you'd better tell me the name of... Oliver turns to Shado to finish his sentence, but she has vanished, leaving him alone.
Too much trouble. We will find someone else to do your killing. She dies.
Not yet. None of this works unless the third man kills her after the job is done. Otherwise, there will be a trail for them to follow, right back to us. And may I point out that your own legitimate holdings are as much at stake as ours.
It has already cost us a great deal, both in money and in honor.
It will be over in 12 hours, and your honor will be restored. The Washington Post reads, International Summit heralds arms reduction. Oliver watches the Yakuza corporate headquarters building continue to burn and billow smoke from his hotel room nearby, still alone. It's a beautiful plan, really. Elegantly simple, like a brushstroke, yet exquisitely torturous. Either she kills an innocent man and herself, or her baby dies. And even if she obeys, the Yakuza will take her child to be raised as one of their own, as she was, a slave. Blood of the Dragon, Part 4, Hanare. Oliver remembers the trail of chaos and blood that has led him here. We tried twice to find the baby, then she disappeared. She warned me she will stop at nothing to save her child. I've never known her to lie.
She said she will kill me if I try to stop her from committing this assassination. Ollie is struck by a realization. There is deep concern that these policies could lead to demilitarization, cuts in weapons development programs. All of us have vested interest in seeing that peace does not become epidemic. One thing that Vietnam proved, the thing that Jack Kennedy wouldn't accept, was that war may be hell, but it's damn good for business. If he'd been just a little more reasonable, he might still be around. So here we have the leaders of the three most technically advanced nations of the Earth talking about cutting back or restricting development of major defense systems. The head planner puts out his cigar. All well and good for the general populace, I'm sure, but our budgets for the next decade are based on a certain status quo. History has shown us that from time to time a world leader will arise who simply insists on breaking the pattern. It then becomes necessary to restore the imbalance. Now, a thing like a political assassination can be a particularly valuable tool when applied in just the right fashion. By staging it here in Japan, the Red Army is a natural party on which to place the blame. In 1965, a false trail was laid to Cuba. Just as in 1963, the primary assassin was eliminated by introducing another who could be manipulated into killing him. We have now brought in a man known to the primary and set him on a course that should, if all reports of his abilities are accurate, lead him to the scene in time to kill her. But will he? Yes, without a doubt. His past record is wholly in accordance with the profile. As in Dallas, the real assassination will be performed by the least visible operatives, the backup. As soon as she makes the shot, I will use this. He takes out a pen. It even writes, to send a small but deadly cloud of cyanide gas into his face. He'll be unconscious almost instantly and dead within minutes.
Oliver arrives at the American embassy and explains the situation to a security guard at the gate. Inside the building, the conspirators continue their meeting.
Won't cyanide show on an autopsy?
Only if they look for it. They will assume the arrow was poisoned.
What if she misses?
It doesn't matter if she fires a killing shot or not, although research indicates the likelihood of a miss is all but non-existent.
But if?
A heart attack blamed on the stress of the assassination. An older man. It happens.
So then what if they check and find the cyanide in his system?
Then, gentlemen, I suggest we take early retirement. And remember, you're the ones who wanted this thing done now.
What about the baby? It's a link.
Our friends the Yakuza will perform a last service. Strange. They seem to place honor above all else. This is all the payment they wanted. Aside from the mutual fringe benefits, of course. An assistant enters the room and whispers to a Yakuza member.
What do you mean, he's here? How the hell?
Unexpected, but not unplanned for. We knew this was a possibility when dealing with a man of his nature. Talk to him. Stall him a while. But be sure to let him know the location of the hit. The assistant is sent back out.
While I do appreciate your concern, Mr. Queen, I'm not entirely clear on exactly why you believe this woman may be a danger to the president.
Because you used the word assassination. Only VIPs are assassinated. Ordinary people are just plain murdered.
I assure you, the president is in no danger. He is attending a Yabusame demonstration in the company of the Premier, the Prime Minister, and the Emperor. The security on that stadium is the finest three nations can provide. Nothing could possibly happen.
You don't know her like I do, Mr. Dawson.
Go back to Seattle, Mr. Queen. Stick to flowers. Let us handle this.
Oliver leaves the man's office. Once outside, he smells a flower and has another realization. Oliver changes to Green Arrow and re-enters the embassy, silently knocking out a guard outside. He takes the guard's taser, then uses it on another guard inside. The assistant enters his office and sits at his desk, when suddenly an arrow pins his mug to the wood, sticking through the handle.
Ah!
A bit theatrical, I suppose, but I wanted to save you the trouble of trying something stupid. You'd never make it. I know that you embassy types tend toward paranoia. Soundproof room, no bugs, no snoopers, no one to hear you scream.
Now, there are a lot of ways of doing this, but they take a certain amount of time, so you'll excuse me if I get right to the point. Green Arrow ties him to his chair with a phone cord. You set this up nicely. The Yabusame demonstration? 4 targets and an open killing ground? The question is, which one is she going to kill? She will kill him, you know, and herself afterward. She'll slash open her belly and watch her guts spill out. There's only one person in the world who can stop her, and you're going to tell me where to find him.
What makes you think I'll tell you anything?
Oliver pours lighter fluid into the man's lap. This is Mr. Fire Extinguisher. And this is Mr. Match. At the Yabusame demonstration, held in a large stadium, Shado knocks out one of the horse-mounted archers and dons his costume. She emerges in her disguise and mounts the man's horse. The world leaders are watching from the stands, President George Bush Sr. among them. Shado rides her horse down the track, effortlessly firing arrows into the targets. Meanwhile, the head conspirator sitting behind President Bush and the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Gorbachev takes out his cyanide pen. Green Arrow takes aim at Shado from above the track. The conspirator uncaps his pen. Shado nears her target. She takes aim at Gorbachev as Oliver looses his arrow. Shado sees the green arrow shoot across her path. She looks up to its source and sees Oliver holding up her baby, safe and sound. The conspirator makes his move, and Shado shoots an arrow into his chest before he can strike. The stadium erupts into chaos as guards draw their guns and fire at Shado. She escapes on the horse, but the gunfire follows her outside the stadium, and the horse is brought down on the street. Shado and the horse tumble off a high cliff together. And the guards watch as both of them disappear beneath the waves below. Zanshin.
Report. The President's senior security advisor was pronounced dead on the scene. He has been hailed a martyr by the world press.
Officially, the Red Army has been blamed for the attack, and 3 of the conspirators have already died accidental deaths.
However, all 3 governments have leveled accusations at each other. In a short time, we have brought the world back from the brink of peace. We have eliminated our competition while strengthening our legitimate holdings in defense industry contracts. Convey my appreciation to my Yakuza, and my condolences to the families of the men who died. It was necessary to sacrifice them in order to add authenticity to our plan, and convince the Americans that it was they who were in control.
His men bow to him.
Oyabun!
Oliver and Shado say goodbye on a beach at sunset.
How can I ever repay you?
Time has a way of evening things out. Perhaps one day.
Perhaps.
They'll be looking for you. All of them. Where will you go?
Onward.
The baby's father.
His life is complicated enough without us. Better that he never knows the truth.
To have known you, however briefly, he is a lucky man. Shado-san. Oliver hands her baby back and bows to Shado. He gives her a stone arrowhead on a necklace. For the baby. Something to remember me by when he grows to be a man. I made it a very long time ago. On an island. He's a fine-looking boy.
Yes. He has his father's eyes.
Oliver waves goodbye and walks away into the sunset. As he does, a single tear rolls down Shado's cheek. Her child plays with his new arrowhead, the sun's red glow reflected in his forest green eyes.
A group of men search a forest with hunting dogs.
Quiet. She'll hear us coming.
They startle an owl out of a tree.
She doesn't need to hear us to know we're coming.
A woman in a cloak uses an herb on a baby on an altar.
Coo.
The owl alights on a nearby branch. She senses the owl's warning, gives the baby to another woman, and flees.
Meh.
The men and dogs arrive to find the altar deserted.
Gone.
All that is left behind are herbs and strange symbols.
How the bloody hell are we gonna find her now? Old Bulger and his mates will bring her down.
The men release the dogs, who run deeper into the woods. The cloaked woman runs through the woods, and soon the dogs find her. She tames them with a wave of her hand, and they instantly become docile. She walks on, with one of the dogs joining her. The cloaked woman returns to a stately manner with the dog at her side. Once inside, she is accosted by an old man.
I know where you've been. I know what you've been up to. And I won't have it, do you understand? I won't have it. I've tried to stop you, to put an end to this once and for all. And by God, I shall.
I didn't choose this, grandfather. I was chosen.
This thing, this evil, killed your mother.
Evil is in the minds of ignorant men.
As he yells at her, he gestures wildly with his cane.
I begged her to stop, but they wouldn't let her. She gave and gave until there was nothing left. I watched her wither and die because of this abomination. No more!
Grandfather, please, don't.
No more!
He swings his cane and knocks over planters filled with flowers.
By heaven, I would rather see you dead than...
He raises the cane to strike her, then suddenly stops. It drops to the ground as he clutches his chest and collapses, falling down the stairs. In Seattle, all the leaves have turned with the season. Autumn is my favorite time of year. It has been since I was a kid. There's a freshness in the chill air after the summer heat, a tinge of smoke as the coming winter fans the leaves of flame. A season of change. Anticipation. Oliver passes some excited children looking at a Halloween display in a store window, knowing that in a few days you'll have eaten enough candy to make you sick. Sherwood Florist hosts Frankenstein and his bride in their window, under the sign, "We cater weddings." The place is looking great, Dinah, but are you sure you want to do a haunted castle?
It's for a good cause, Oliver. We're raising money for the Seattle Children's Home.
Well, I bought enough sugar to keep Mrs. Peebles' third-grade class whirling like hyperactive dervishes well into recess. I think Halloween was invented as a job security scam for dentists.
I love you, Oliver. Sometimes the only thing worse than not having you around is having you around. Grouch.
Dinah playfully slaps Ollie's behind.
Psh. Bah humbug.
You're early.
Doesn't hurt to practice.
What did we get?
Junk mail.
Let me see. And stay out of the candy. It's for the other children. This isn't junk, Oliver. It's overseas airmail from a solicitor named Jeffrey Dunstan. Do you know him?
Never heard of him.
Well, he's heard of you. He wants you to fly to England to investigate a client's death.
I don't do PI work for lawyers. I'm not for hire.
Oh, I think you may want to reconsider. Take a look at the postmark.
The letter has come all the way from Nottingham in the United Kingdom, the supposed home of Robin Hood. Real-life historians disagree on whether Robin Hood existed or not, but this being a fictional world, I think we can safely assume he existed, and leave it at that. Oliver catches a flight to England, and he admires Big Ben as the plane flies over the Thames River. London, England. He takes a rented car from the airport to Geoffrey Dunstan's office.
Alec Hawthorne was an old and dear friend. He was like a father to me, really. I served under him in the army, and have been legal counsel to the family for nearly 20 years. I was with his son in Cairo when he was killed. I thought the grief would kill the old man as well, but he was too tough for that. Rich's wife, Gwyneth, and the baby Rowan came to live with him afterward. Mr. Dunstan pours Ollie a cup of tea. And for a time, Alec seemed all right. He loved Gwyneth dearly and positively doted on Rowan, despite the fact that she showed signs of her mother's disorder. Explain. Gwyneth was Welsh, a descendant of the ancient Celts. She was obsessed with their culture, even to the practice of druid rituals. She fancied herself a healer of some sort. Oh, it was harmless enough at first. Simple folk medicine for the benefit of the less educated locals. But then the stories began to circulate. Rumors of strange moonlight rituals, ancient rites, magic. The simple truth is, she was never a particularly strong person, and Richard's death seemed to unbalance her. Eventually, it all took its toll. The bitter cold nights in the forest, the physical and mental strain. One night, they found her, dead. Alec consoled himself with the child, but soon it became apparent that Rowan was following in her mother's footsteps. These last years were hell for him, watching her go further and further down the same path that led to her mother's destruction. Mr. Dunstan lights his pipe. He recently confided in me that he believed she had unlocked certain forces, evil forces, which tormented him, made his life a living nightmare. The delusions of an old man, brought on by a life of tragedy. Exactly what is it you want me to do here, Mr. Dunstan? Is there something questionable about Hawthorne's death? No, of course not. There's no question that Alec's death was from natural causes, albeit under rather bizarre circumstances. He'd had other attacks. The authorities believe the fall down the steps was merely an unfortunate coincidence. All that's been settled. It's unimportant. What matters is what Rowan believes. She's disappeared. I think she feels responsible. Believes she caused his death by some supernatural means. They're looking for her, Mr. Queen, and when they find her, I'm afraid they will treat her as men of good conscience have always treated witches. I've known Rowan Hawthorne most of her life, Mr. Queen. She is a sweet, innocent child. Deluded, to be sure. Demented, there seems little doubt. But if she is guilty of evil practices, it is only a result of the mental illness which plagued her mother as well. When I read of your exploits, your skills as a hunter of men, I knew you were the one who could help us. Find Rowan, Mr. Queen, please, before it's too late. Before the local witch hunters do. I'll do what I can, Mr. Dunstan. I've placed a car and driver at your disposal, Mr. Queen. I prefer to drive myself, thanks. Ollie shakes Mr. Dunstan's hand. Good luck, Mr. Queen. And do remember to stay on the wrong side of the road. Oliver drives down a wooded country road. He stops to talk to a man with a pitchfork. Excuse me, I had directions, but I think I got a little lost. Is this the way to Nottingham? It's just down the road a bit. And, where would I find Sherwood Forest?
You've been driving through what's left of it, lad. Bit of a disappointment, ain't it? Not at all the way they make it out in the cinema. But then, that's progress, I suppose. Ollie drives on. Yeah, right. Progress. Now there's something I recognize. Ollie finds a pub on the first floor of the Blue Boar Inn, and he enters.
Anything else, sir?
Yes, I'd like a room, please.
How many nights?
As many as it takes.
Something I can do for you, sir?
Maybe. I'm looking for the Hawthorne estate. My map doesn't seem to be very... All talk stops at the mention of the name, and a dart goes awry. Reliable.
Bit like passing gas in a crowded lift, eh?
Something I said?
Not exactly. I just know, is all.
The blonde stranger holds up a set of darts.
Darts?
Yes, they are. That's very good. Ollie throws one.
No what? What you don't, yet. Well, you'll find out, right enough. What are you talking about? The forest isn't like any place you've been. There are things. Forces.
Save the routine, okay? I don't need tourist crap.
No, you don't. You're the adventurous sort. But I should at least warn you that you could be walking straight into hell.
If I mention your name, will I get a good seat?
A warm welcome, at least. Just tell them Constantine sent you.
What's wrong with them?
They wanted to know just why you were asking about the Hawthorne estate.
Well, if I thought it was any of their business, maybe I'd tell them.
Look, mate, there's already been enough trouble here with that witch. We don't need any more from you.
Witch?
That's what I said, right enough. The old squire, Mr. Hawthorne, was important to this community, even if he was getting on. His death raised a lot of questions about the repayment of a good many loans he made to the local over the years. Loans that could be called in by his estate. And top that off with the mumbo-jumbo his granddaughter is practicing. Spells, potions, rituals under the full moon. Those folks would like to blame her for his death as well. Her and her black magic.
You don't really believe that, do you?
Let me tell you, I knew the old squire for a good many years. I saw the strength of the man when his only son was blown to pieces by a car bomb in Cairo. And when Rowan's mother died and he was left to raise his granddaughter all alone, he never wavered. Rowan began following her mother's footsteps, working spells, dabbling in magic. He tried to stop her. Who could blame him? The evil already cost him his daughter-in-law. He didn't want to lose his last link to his son. But she wouldn't stop. Everyone knows she bewitched him. He began having attacks, visions. This was a man as strong and healthy as a horse. She set her demons on him to drive him mad, she did. I saw him once in the town, walking peaceful as you please one minute, and screaming with horror the next. Tormented, he was, and if she didn't kill him herself, she had help driving him to his grave. Sure as hell. There are things in this world, and beyond, that you just don't understand.
Oh, I think I know the difference between reality and fantasy.
I wish I did.
Oliver visits the Hawthorne estate to have a look around. He passes down a hall with suits of armor on display and finds the arboretum and takes the old man's cane resting there. He explores the greenhouse and the well-tended plants, then quickly hides as he hears someone approaching. Ollie jumps out and surprises the new arrival.
Ah! I say, Mr. Queen!
Mr. Dunstan, I thought you were still in London. I had second thoughts and decided I'd better come in case there was a problem. I've known Rowan since she was a child, and felt that my presence might have some calming influence on her. I promise I shan't get in your way, Mr. Queen. I'll just wait here. If you find her, if you bring her to me... Oh, I'll find her, Mr. Dunstan. That's what I do.
Do you think she'll come back?
She's been here. Often. The plants have all been watered, and some of the herbs have been harvested. She's obviously continuing her practices.
Witchcraft? You can't believe that.
No. Healing. Most of these plants have some medicinal property. Amaranth to treat diarrhea. Chickweed can be made into a poultice to treat burns and rashes. Elderberries to help break fevers. This place isn't just a greenhouse. It's a living, growing apothecary. Oliver picks up a plant stem and picks his teeth with it.
Do you think that's wise?
Parsley. I didn't think English pub cuisine had so much garlic in it.
I'm concerned, Mr. Queen, by the rumors that the townsmen are trying to hunt her down.
In this case, I speak as an old family friend and not as a solicitor.
I think it best for Rowan if she were placed under psychiatric care.
Outside, by his car, Oliver changes into Green Arrow.
How will you go about?
First, you get to know your quarry. That's what I've been doing here. Shoe size, dress size, weight, likes music and gardening, and animals. She has a dog with her, a big one. He isn't very well housebroken.
I wouldn't know where to begin looking.
She's already made that part easy. Been here several times. Left a trail my Aunt Matilda could follow.
But I don't see any tracks.
Of course not. She wiped them out. But then she also wiped out all the other tracks. Birds, squirrels, worms, bugs. Like following a path shoveled in the snow. It's what's missing that counts. I'll find her. But after that, no guarantees. Witch Hunt, Part 2. Ollie of Sherwood. The dark shape of a forest spirit bearing large antlers watches Green Arrow enter the woods. As Ollie delves deeper into the forest, he hears it seem to speak to him.
My name doesn't matter. Men have little use for me now. Men abandon their gods as readily as they embrace them.
And he sees the forest spirit.
It's not like the old days when Robin and his merry band roamed the forest, seeking adventure and justice. The days of the longbow are all but gone. But here in the greenwood, they live on. With each new spring they are born again in the heart of the Great Mother. The leaves whisper their names, and the wind is touched with their laughter.
The ancient spirits of Robin Hood and his men appear before Green Arrow.
Bold Robin, merry Tuck, faithful Little John. The hunting horn echoes down the ages, but only a few hear the call.
You speak as if you knew them.
They were my sons. They were your brothers. I called them as I call you. Their choice was the same as yours, adventure and death, or boredom and contentment. For the bold there is no choice, really. One day the trees will speak your name. Though men forget, the forest remembers. But there is one who hasn't forgotten the old ways. She has awakened me from my long sleep. Even now she waits in the grove to celebrate the new year. The coming of winter. The time of Herne the Hunter.
People come and go so quickly around here. Light suddenly streams over the horizon, and the setting changes. Something tells me we aren't in Kansas anymore, Toto. Oliver sees a tall castle on a hill. The stuff dreams are made of. Out of nowhere, a huge dragon appears. Yeah, enter the dragon. Its tail sweeps Ollie off his feet. Back in reality, Oliver has just been narrowly missed by a truck. This was no boating accident.
Bloody Yank tourist, playing Halloween dress-up. Don't know which way to look before crossing.
Rowan appears in her cloak.
Perhaps I can help.
She examines Oliver's dazed eyes. Here's looking at you, kid.
I think you'd better come with me.
You know, Louis, this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Rowan leads him off with her into the woods. Oliver awakens in a cave by a fire. Rosebud.
How do you feel?
Like someone hit me with a truck. What happened?
I'd say you were drugged, Mr. Queen.
How did you know?
You told me a great many things in your delirium.
Such as?
Such as why you've come here.
I know you didn't have anything to do with your grandfather's death, Rowan. But you'd better come back with me so we can straighten this out.
Yes, but not tonight. I have too much to do. This is All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, right. And I suppose you're gonna ride a magic broomstick and perform magic rituals under the full moon.
What is magic but the explanation of ignorant people for that which they cannot understand? The natural abilities we were all born with, but have forgotten. Things pushed into the shadows, a faded memory, and explained by superstitious fools and religious fanatics as magic. Suspicion is a well-established tradition, centuries old. It served a number of purposes. It got women out of the midwife trade and strengthened the hold of the church on the people by replacing the old rituals with the new and condemning the practitioners of the old ways as heretics. But the old ones knew a truth that is only now just being reawakened. The land and the people are one. The earth is our mother. It nurtures us, renews us, gives us life, food, shelter, clothing, and at the end of our lives welcomes us back to her bosom to begin the cycle once again. And we are destroying it, and ourselves. She cries out in sorrow, writhes in pain, and we are deaf to her cries. One day, perhaps, she will be deaf to ours. Look around you, Mr. Queen. Nothing grows in the forest that is not useful. If a thing is poisonous, you will find a remedy growing nearby. Poison ivy and jewelweed often grow side by side. They were created together and live together. Even the things we've come to fear often have medicinal properties, or can be put to some other good use. It is only man who corrupts their powers for evil. It is up to us to learn the mysteries and find the good.
Rowan's dog growls as men emerge from the shadows by some standing stone.
Geoffrey!
I'm very sorry to do this, my dear, but, well, I couldn't be sure Mr. Queen would find you, and I so desperately wanted to see you safe.
And so you brought these men here?
As my dog she's got. Bodger, come here, you ungrateful.
Bodger belongs to no one but himself. He's free to make his choice.
Witch! She's made him mad like she did her grandfather before she killed him.
Oliver shoots an arrow into the barrel of the man's gun before he can use it.
Huh?
A cloth-yard shaft for the first man who lays a hand on the girl. He knocks and draws another.
Mr. Queen, this is hardly the best way to help Rowan. Can't you see she needs psychiatric care?
Don't you mean confinement? That's what you had in mind all along, didn't you, Dunstan?
I only want what's best for Rowan.
And what happens to her grandfather's estate once you've locked her safely away, Mr. Dunstan?
Well, naturally, I would act in Rowan's best interests.
And that's why you brought these men here?
To find her, nothing more.
But you hired me to do that, Mr. Dunstan. You brought me here all the way from America because of my reputation as a manhunter. What made you so sure I'd fail? Could it be because you saw me handling the old man's cane? The one you're carrying now, with gloves?
This is ridiculous. How can you?
You knew I wasn't going to be in any shape to find Rowan after I touched that cane. There's a chemical called dimethyl sulfoxide. It's used in both veterinary medicine and in the treatment of arthritis, a rather common ailment in men your age. It has the unique property of being readily absorbed through the skin. It also leaves a strong garlic taste in the back of your throat. That should have been my tip-off. The interesting thing about DMSO is that anything you mix with it is also absorbed. And I'll bet the head of that cane has been covered with the stuff. Are you saying I poisoned Alec? There was an autopsy. It turned up nothing. Not poison, or I'd be dead. I got a hell of a blast of it earlier. LSD. It was the perfect weapon. Untraceable. By the time the hallucinations start, it's already gone from the bloodstream. The old man was convinced that Rowan was bewitching him, which didn't hurt your plan at all. Every time he picked up that cane, he got another dose. Eventually, in the middle of an hallucination, his heart gave out. Even Rowan blamed herself. Perfect.
Why, Jeffrey, I would have given you anything. I care nothing for the money.
And that is precisely why, you ungrateful child. I loved him like a father, and he treated me like an employee. Why should you have it all, and I nothing?
As Dunstan raises his gun, Bodger jumps at him, smashing the man into one of the standing stones. The top breaks off and falls, crushing him beneath it.
I hope you'll forgive us, Mum. We were wrong to blame you, just because we didn't understand.
It's the way it has always been between our kind. Ignorance breeds fear. Perhaps knowledge can breed love.
Everyone begins to go home. Wait, there's something I have to do. Oliver fires an arrow high over the tree line. It arcs down and returns to the forest.
Why did you do that?
Just my way of saying thank you. Where the arrow has landed, the forest spirit still walks. The end. It's said that as Robin Hood lay dying, he shot an arrow into Sherwood Forest and said to bury him where the arrow lay, for that was his home. A part of Oliver Queen calls it home as well, and the forest spirits walked there then, as they do now. That much, at least, was real, and not a hallucination. I didn't plan for this to be a Halloween episode, it just sort of worked out through chance or fate. As for the baby in our second story, that was indeed Oliver's child, whom he would never learn about. I don't think. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think he did. When the time came to introduce a son for Oliver and Connor Hawke, Mike Grell had left the book, and both Shado and her son left with him, as DC didn't want to have to pay royalties on the new character, and so they instead invented Moonday Hawke, another woman Oliver had slept with around the same time who we simply never met, and had Connor grow up in the same monastery Oliver had stayed in when he accidentally took a life and quit being Green Arrow. You can see more of Connor in my episode Where Angels Fear to Tread, The Death of Green Arrow. But fan theory holds, and I agree, that Shado's child was originally meant to be in the role Connor occupied. I hope you've enjoyed this run of Mike Grell's Green Arrow as much as I have. It will resume in time, but I think this will be it for a while, as I have other projects I need to get to in the meantime. And these 3 episodes, along with the Longbow Hunters, give a good sense of the book as a whole. So until next time, take care out there. And as always, thanks for watching.